It's springtime, season's changing. Got some new revelations. The first one is on alchemy. And I had this epiphany basically that a system is just a formalized alchemical process that you don't have to think about anymore because you already figured it out. So you just let that joint run. Systems involve converting matter and energy into a series of forms in a given sequence. So when we talk about the prison system, right, it's this series of rituals organized in such a way. If you ever seen a flow chart, that's essentially what it is. It's like everything can be broken down into almost like binary options, like yes or no. If yes, it's like, are you black? Yes or no. If it's yes, then you go to this, you follow this line. It's like, do you live in an urban area? Yes or no. Follow yes, boom. Is your income below the poverty line? Yes, no, boom. Do you have parents with substance use issues or mental health issues? Yes or no, boom. Like, can you read? Yes or no, boom. Based on all of those like questions, you could essentially lead somebody systematically, like through that yes and no chart, all the way to being incarcerated or whatever outcome you want. That's the whole thing. Like, the person who creates the chart has the ability to contrive it in such a way that those yeses or the nos, because it could be like, did you get a full ride scholarship? Maybe that's a no. Boom, follow that, and then get to whatever the outcome you want it to be. It's all spiritual. And sometimes people talk about science and all this like material things. They separate material from spiritual, and it's all tied together because the core is spiritual. And so I just had that newfound understanding because I was thinking about in the process of alchemy, right? Basically, if you were to Google it, they'll say like, yeah, back in the day they was trying to transform bronze into gold, right? And then you have other people who say like the whole point of alchemy is a spiritual thing. I'm transforming my bronze version of myself into a gold version of myself. I'm developing as a person, as a soul. Like, I'm becoming better. That's alchemy. But when you look at how society functions, how one thing leads to another, and how you can set up a chain of dominoes so that, and set up these conditionals within that chain so that if this, then that, even using if-then clauses is a logical strategy, a tactic. And by employing that, people basically put the alchemical processes on autopilot, basically. So I know I can go to work, exchange physical labor for paper money, right? I then take that paper money and I give it to somebody so I have somewhere to stay. So when you think about it, if you were to look at the beginning and the end of the chain, I'm basically doing this physical labor to have somewhere to stay. And the middle part would be like, I'm getting money, but I'm passing that money along to the next person. And so that's alchemy, but that's also a system, like the system of your ability to manage your strategy of how you manage your finances is systematic to the extent that it involves transformations. And it's not just finances. The separate domains of like finance, social life, personal life, mental health, All of these seemingly separate domains all come together because alchemy threads them together. You might be winning in your personal life and taking L's at your work life, right? So that there's some connection. And so you might kick up at work and then start taking L's in personal. You know what I'm saying? It may be a reciprocal relationship. And so basically we all operate off systems. Even whatever your daily routine is, that's essentially your system, which is why within my research, one of the things I focus on is people's mental and emotional intrapsychic infrastructure. One thing I love about the spring, you feel me? It's a good day to turn your head. It's a lot to see. A lot of beautiful things out here to see. It's a lot of beauty. A lot of beauty walking around. It's a whole lot of beauty out here. You feel me? Basically by changing your habits, you change your system, which is gonna change the outcomes it lead to, if it's significant enough. Because even if you do that chart, like sometimes you can have a yes or a no and it won't matter, it'll still lead to the same step eventually. And I think that's kind of like the situation when I talk to black people and gain a better understanding of what they're going through in their personal lives. You can't really disconnect that from what's going on with black people as a whole and the system of white supremacy and black inferiority and systemic racism. It's like the racism is cooked into the alchemical process by which people operate on a daily basis. And if they're not aware of it, then it's like, how can you avoid it or stop it if you don't even know that joint cooked in there? It's like if you make some mac and cheese and I put dish detergent in the milk that you use, but you ain't know, like, how you gonna take the dish detergent out after the mac and cheese already been baked? Like, it's all up and through there. You know what I'm saying? So say that to say that was helpful for me. I had never connected systems to alchemy, but now I see the thread between the two. And I also would say machines do alchemy. Machines are programmed by man to do what man could do, or maybe man had done at some point in time, but doesn't want to have to keep doing personally, like a cotton gin. You know, that's transforming something. I think anytime you transform matter or energy into another form, that's essentially alchemy. You just turn bronze into gold. But maybe you're in a social environment where bronze is better than gold, so you change gold into bronze. Like you change one thing into another. And from that logic, right, when we talk about abundance can come in many forms. If you understand alchemy, you can take abundance in one form and put it through a process to transform it into another form. And this is why material wealth for some is low-hanging fruit, because in order to get the material wealth, there's something that you give to get it, and the thing that you give to get it is probably worth more than the material. An easy example would be like them Illuminati sacrifices they be talking about. Like, I don't even want to do air quotes on that. I don't know why I did that, but them Illuminati sacrifices when people would like give a relative or somebody for some type of material reward. But even in my own lifetime, sometimes I doubt that progress even exists. I believe change exists, but we change so much that things end up staying the same, because change often is proportionate, kind of like you're doing an algebraic solving an algebraic equation. What you do on one side of the equal sign, you do on the other side. It's like black progression and then white backlash. So it's like for all this change that we're doing and all this progress that we're perceiving, there's other people, the antithesis to whatever you're working towards is seeking their, like your advancement is their stagnation, I guess, or degradation. Like yin and yang. Every time yin gains an inch, yang feel like it loses. So then that builds up the inspiration in yang to do more, to take that back, and then yin gotta fight back. So it's never ending. But that's in line with this whole theory of like energy is not created or destroyed, it's just transferred. We're really just going in circles. Like all of this we're doing is going in circles. But you can make your experience worthwhile for you. But even no matter, like, as you progress in your own life, there's a shadow that's cast, because for some of these things that you earn, the next person can't get them because you got them. Even if we don't want to put responsibility on an individual, it just may not be enough slots. It may not be enough of that resource going around, especially in a capitalistic society where, like, you know, things are capitalized upon. But an economic system is a form of alchemy. But it's a form of alchemy that's projected onto a group of people rather than an individual person. Because one person could decide, all right, let me pervert this or let me exploit this. But when that becomes the norm and you teach generation after generation of people to exploit themselves, each other, objects, whatever, animals, plants, you basically have spiritual control over these people because they all practice your spiritual practices. And your spiritual practices are the rituals, the habits, the daily routines that you do, the meanings and the symbols that you use to rationalize your actions. And some of the things that you do, some of the spiritual actions that you do, you may not have the language to describe, but you still participate in the ritual. Prime example, graduation. Why do we wear caps and gowns and tassels and robes? Why do certain people have stripes and things like that? What is the symbolism behind graduation? And looking further into it, you know, it kind of highlights the importance of why becoming woke became a thing. It also shows, like, for being woke to have somehow become satirical or like no longer desirable, to me is reflective of the power of the spiritual whole of the mainstream culture over subcultures, because wokeness would technically be a subculture. Most people not really moving like that, but there's legitimacy to it, because a lot of things you got to figure, no matter when you was born, there was already people here. So you could be 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, it don't matter. Say you, however, whatever age you are today, and a baby is born today, do you think that you could, like, finesse that baby? Of course you could. That baby can't talk, walk, none of that. You can tell that baby Santa Claus exists, work hard, American dream, white picket fence, color doesn't exist. You tell them all this shit, right? But that doesn't mean that's how you actually moving. So you basically sleepwalking people. And that's why that's the impetus for being woke. It's like most people getting sleptwalked. Like, I'm basically like, oh yeah, come with me down the street right quick. And you like, where we going? I'm like, oh yeah, we about to go over here. Don't even worry about it. It's about to be somebody over there. And you walking with me, like, not knowing where you going, not really knowing me for real. You just gullible and naive, and you just following me. That's the same thing as being asleep. Like, you just going with what I said because I said it, just blindly following. That's why they say blind leading the blind, because If you sleep, right? Say you've been asleep, I've been walking you down the street, we've been walking for miles. Then you have kids, right? 9 times out of 10, you're gonna teach them to do the same shit you're doing. Even if you don't say it outright, explicitly, implicitly, they're gonna see, oh, this is how my parents move, and let me move the same way. Cool. Now it's the blind leading the blind. The whole point of being woke is to become aware of the big picture. Like, step outside of your own individual experience. Like, you know, take a couple steps outside of your culture and just look at it from a glance. And that's waking up, like no longer being sleptwalked. Oh, I'm hip to what's going on. So that's why I think for people to somehow talk about being woke, even like black people, to talk about being woke in a negative way, kind of shows the power that white supremacy has. Or like the people that's pulling the wool over your eyes want you to think being woke is bad, obviously, because if you think being woke is bad, you probably gonna stay asleep. Like, you come to somebody like, oh yeah, I ain't eating meat no more, that shit trash. Like, they doing all this shit to the meat, da-da-da-da. And they like, damn, you always on some woke shit. You always on some, this nigga went to college, you think he, da-da-da-da. Like, you always on some whole other shit. You don't want to eat a piece of chicken, nigga. You don't eat fried chicken no more. Like, oh, you too cool for chicken, type shit. That conversation is like, yeah, nigga, like, I grew up eating fried chicken too, blind leading a blind, nigga. We was raised on soul food. But when you wake up and you become more aware of, like, where did soul food come from? Why was we eating it? You gain an understanding that the people that was there before that became the norm probably thought, like, when new shit come out and the kids is eating it up, like Sexy Red or Sukiyana, like, when you see celebrities that's younger than you, it gives you a different perspective on, like, their influence. Because you could see, like, damn, they really got these people in the chokehold. Like, that person has influence, you know, over this group. And it's obvious because the likeness is uncanny. So yeah, that was my thought for the day. Being woke can be perverted just like anything else, and it serves the mainstream agenda to pervert medicine, like true healing, so that people will seek medication and treatment over healing and treatment over health. So systems are alchemy. Systems are inherently spiritual. The transformation of energy is inherently spiritual, because what is energy and what is matter? And even go into quantum physics and see what they're saying, see what the science is saying. It's all coming full circle. Everything's going in a circle. But I guess you would say a spiral, right? So, like number 9. Okay, so you might ask, why is my research important? Why should anybody care about psychological advantageousness? What's the benefit? The benefit is that this is a stepping stone for people to improve their quality of life. This is gonna help people get more joy out of life, just have a better general experience life. And it's using science and analysis to look at the things, the aspects of life, see which things can be substituted or eliminated, make those changes, and then see the outcome, like see the result. Basically, we working to find out what to change to actually achieve that. Not necessarily how to change, just knowing what things should be changed. There is research out there on like what to change, stages of change, processes of change, how people change. But the question I'm asking is like, what to change? My cousin got a quote. He had this quote from when we was younger. I can't say he made it up, but he was the first person I heard say it. It was kind of like, it doesn't take much effort to do things, but it takes much effort to figure out what to do. And that's kind of sums up where my research is at. Like, when you say, for a prime example, there's assessments out there, neuropsychological assessments that study attention, learning, memory, etc. But what's the correlation between high performance on these neuropsychological assessments and quality of life? That's what my research, that's the door that my research is opening. That's not my particular research question right now, but I see myself as introducing a body of work in the field of positive psychology, just opening the door for more researchers to ask more questions. Because if there's no correlation between high performance on these assessments, why should we care about these assessments? Like, if scoring high on an assessment of memory, or let's even take it a little further, if having a phenomenal, immaculate memory does not translate into higher quality of life, is memory valuable? If having a high quality memory is associated with feeling miserable, sad, and depressed, is having a high quality memory valuable? Because the idea is that, or the question, philosophical question is that, are things good intrinsically? And what my research is basically, the question my research is suggesting is that no, they're not intrinsically good. Things aren't intrinsically good. Things are good because of their ecological value. Like, you could take something like being tall. Is being tall desirable in and of itself? Does it make your life better? You know, people may have different opinions on that. And I would say there's benefits and also limitations. But I think just asking a question and switching it from something physical to something mental, to ask, does this disposition, is this certain disposition intrinsically good? Or if it isn't, how good is it? Because that's the second question. Like, if we can agree that things aren't good for their own sake, then we can measure how good they are. And that's that suffix ness. When we say psychological advantageousness, we're already conceding that everything that every human being does has an adaptive value. It provides some advantage to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. That's already assumed. However, what we're doing now is measuring, well, how good is it to you? You know, how much of an effect does it have on your overall quality of life? And is it making your overall quality of life better, worse, or how does it interact with other beliefs or other aspects of your mental and emotional intrapsychic infrastructure to either mitigate them or boost them up? Maybe showing my age, but for millennials, y'all remember Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and some of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards was trashed by themselves. Like, I remember it was one set of cards, and maybe like 4 cards. They was all parts of a body. So you might get an arm, a leg. It was all divided. By themselves, them cards was trash. But when you put them cards with all together, it was like one of the strongest cards. And you can combine cards, things like that. Similarly, if you ever played Tomb Raider, like back in the 90s, early 2000s, not Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, I struggled with that game because I was probably like 6 or 7 trying to play it. You had to like put stuff together, like put gun parts together. I don't even know if it was just guns, but you would find pieces of things, put them together. And so you could ask, the most simplest way I could frame it, because that's just 2 separate examples, but I'll give y'all a third one. A peanut butter jelly sandwich, right? We could say the belief that God exists is like peanut butter. And we could question, is peanut butter good in and of itself? Well, let's say it's not. Let's say peanut butter is only good if, and then there's these conditions, right? Peanut butter is good if you like it. Peanut butter is good if it's not spoiled. Peanut butter is good if you're not allergic. Like all of these conditional ifs. So then for the people that it is good for, say they meet those requirements, we say, well, how good is it to you? Well, that may depend on how hungry you are, what other food you got available, like what you mixing with the peanut butter. So now we getting into like the Resident Evil example, and even on a molecular level, like this is what happens. Your body kind of does this naturally, like putting different atoms, different elements together, like oxygen. You got to grab 6 oxygens and 7 carbons and 11 hydrogens, put them together. Now you got a neurotransmitter that you need so your brain can function. So we've seen grouping happen at the physiological level, and I'm saying mentally at the psychological level we have groupings. And so it's not just about whether or not peanut butter is good by itself. It might just be, what value does peanut butter add to boost the jelly, right? Because jelly might not be good by itself neither. Like, who want to eat a jelly sandwich? Some people. I was thinking earlier, I'm not Christian, but I grew up Christian. And I remember in the Bible it was saying that when God was in the first 7 days, like God would do something, he'd make like animals or something, and then he'd sit back and look at it and be like, it's good. Like he was like confirming, his work after he looked at, when he looked at what he did, he was pleased with it. And I can relate to that in painting, because like while you're in the process of painting, you're so close to what you're doing, you can't really see the big picture. Even though like you may know where it's going, especially if you got a reference, you may already have an idea where it's going. But like recently, been working on this painting, and I'm like right up on the canvas, so I'm not even concerned with the big picture at that point. I'm just packing these colors in, like, and it's kind of like, it's like dancing almost. The more I learn about the human brain, it just gives me better language to understand what be going on with myself. But not to get off track, I could 100% relate, because I looked at my painting that I did, like, say I painted at night, but then I go to sleep and I wake up and I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it's good. There's been times I woke up, I look at it like, nah, I need to change this, so I need to work on that. But that feeling when like you come back that next day and you look at that canvas, you're like, nah, it's good. Like that's good how it is. It's a beautiful feeling. That was the thought. I feel like that. In that moment, I had a real understanding of what they was talking about in the Bible. Like, yeah, I did that. I did paint the shit out there. Like, within your mind, there's this house, and the house can have as many doors, as many floors, as many rooms as you want it to. But let's just say, for the sake of this example, there's a front door. And the front door is things that I consciously attend to, right? So I may set a schema at the front door, or like put how they put like the metal detector in the guards or the police or whoever at that front door, guarding the entrance into my mind. So as information's coming in, I'm not letting no weapons in here. You get what I'm saying? I'm not letting nothing crazy, nothing I don't want in here to be in here. And so, in that way, schemas are filtering the information, but we want it to. And in that way, the schema's operating more like a metal detector than a freezer, you know?